Assalamualaikum and good morning to everyone. We are from Group 4 and would like to present our topic, which is analysis of Sukuk in Malaysia. Before we further this presentation, I would like to introduce my team members. Firstly, me, Nur Nazira Balkis binti Muhammad Animan, and my teammates Nur Fitrah, Siti Akira, Nur Syafiqah, Nurul Batrisha, and Siti Nur Anis. Next, as shown in this slide, the content we will discuss is introduction about the development of Sukuk in Malaysia. Second is how the implementation of Sukuk contract in Malaysia. Then the factor for considering a Sukuk issuance. Next, issue related to Sukuk, and lastly, the conclusion of the discussion. Firstly, as we know, Sukuk is an Islamic financial instrument that plays an important role in the capital market. It is objective to raise capital for financial injection either by the government, business entities or companies. Sukuk also describe the value of an asset known as an Islamic or Sharia compliant bond. According to IOF, define a sukuk as a certificate of equal value to part or all of real property ownership to obtain revenue and service in asset ownership from a particular project or specific investment activity. Furthermore, Malaysia is a leading country in the development of Islamic finance. It can be seen that the capital market in Malaysia has managed to dominate the world's largest sukuk market and the third largest bond market relative to gross domestic product (GDP) in Asia, while the Malaysian equity market has the largest number of listed companies in Asia. As is well known, Malaysia launched the world's first sukuk in 1990 when Shell MDS Sdn Bhd launched an RM135 million issue. Since then, the popularity of sukuk, which are non-interest bearing, Sharia compliant fixed income instrument, has gone from strength to strength, especially in Malaysia. For years, sukuk has seen high demand from Muslim investors as well as non-Muslim ones in Malaysia, where many regard this asset class as a superior alternative to traditional bonds. The reasons are obvious, which is Malaysian sukuk in general has turned in steady and decent long-term return, exhibited lower volatility, and generated higher yields relative to comparable fixed income securities. In addition, Malaysia's comprehensive capital market regulation, policies and best practice guidelines with regard to sukuk have safeguarded investor interest and instilled market confidence in these securities. That's all for me. We will continue to the next presenter.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nur Fitrah binti Muhammad Jamil. Okay, I will present about issue that we discussed. Okay, the first issue is how to implement sukuk contracts in Malaysia. In Malaysia, there are three leading types of sukuk contracts. Among them are sukuk mudharabah, sukuk musyarakah, and sukuk murabahah. Firstly, sukuk mudharabah, which is profit sharing. Okay, sukuk mudharabah is a certificate that represents a project or activity carried out based on a mudharabah contract, which is partnership based on trust. Okay, there are two parties who will be involved in this transaction, namely the project manager, or better known as a mudharib. Meanwhile, the capital owner is called Rabbul Mal, who acts as the capital provider of the project and owns mudharabah equity shares. Through mudharabah equity, shareholders will earn a return based on a percentage of the share of ownership. Right? Based on this transaction, the investors will play the role of capital and certificate holders of mudharabah assets. They will subscribe for sukuk and make payments to special purpose vehicle (SPV), as well as act as trustees on behalf of investors. In addition, profits earned from investment activities will be shared between the two parties based on an agreed ratio depending on the performance of the assets or project undertaken. In this case, in the event of a loss, the capital owner will bear all losses unless it appears due to negligence or mismanagement committed by the project manager. Further, through the sukuk holder will not participate in the management of the assets, business or projects implemented. In addition, the project manager will earn a fee or a share of the profits as specified in the initial contract with the investor. However, sukuk mudharabah does not contain any guarantee from the sukuk issuer for capital or fixed profit or profit based on any percentage of capital. Next, we move to sukuk musyarakah, which is profit and loss sharing. Okay, sukuk musyarakah is a form of partnership between two or more parties, and both contribute capital to the partnership either in cash or contributions in kind. Therefore, the reward of the investor is dependent on the percentage of stakeholder from the opinion generated by the investment. In addition, they will share the profits according to the agreed rate, while the losses will be incurred based on the percentage of initial capital allocated. There is no doubt that such sukuk is suitable to finance large commercial projects such as factory expansion or construction projects. Therefore, SPV can also enter in cooperation in assets or projects implemented through the purchase, commissions or construction of assets. In fact, sukuk musyarakah can also be traded on the secondary market. And then sukuk murabahah, which is sale payments or installment payment. In the Islamic financial industry, murabahah is an agreement contract between a seller or investor and a development. In example, the investor will sell certain commodity assets to the developer at a specified time and pay in installments according to the murabahah agreement. The price paid includes cost plus profit margin, which exceeds the original price of the asset and represents a profit to the seller. The rate was agreed when the contract was signed. However, the sukuk cannot be sold on the secondary market as it involves that transaction. Apart from that, sukuk murabahah involves a sale purchase transaction where the owner of the goods or the seller must disclose to the prospective buyer the cost price and price increase, which is markup of the goods. Sukuk of this type are issued to finance assets or projects that do not directly involve profit-loss sharing. Okay, I think that's all for me, and I will pass it to the next presenter. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Siti Akirah binti Pandi, and I will present about the factors for considering a sukuk insurance. The first factor is economic size. When the size of the economy is small, there will be no incentive to issue sukuk in the local market because it will not attract multinational corporation and foreign investor. Small economy are often characterized by significant volatility, illiquidity, and issue concentration among other characteristics. Under this condition, not only small but even relatively large to the whole market, sukuk insurance may impact price given the significant expected increase in trade due to this new sukuk flooding on the market. Those small market tend to be too volatile, and this is unattractive for international investor as the financial sector face large fixed costs. Having a small scale is harmful for its development. Those minimum efficient scale is required for the development of a deep, stable and large sukuk market. And the second factor is interest rate variability. When interest rates are variable, investors tend to have a little appetite to invest in a long-term debt instrument, including sukuk securities. This is due to perceived risk that the purchasing power of long-term debt securities could be eroded when there is high interest rate variability. The third factor is size of Islamic banking. The size of Islamic banking on the development of sukuk market, since Islamic banks serve as a dealers and market makers in the sukuk markets and are considered as the major investor in sukuk certificate, which are structured to comply with Islamic investment principles. Next is exchange rate volatility. Stable exchange rate display lower exchange rate risk for the foreign investor. Therefore, a stable exchange rate regime should be more conducive to sukuk market development. The higher the volatility of a country exchange rate, the lower is the development of its sukuk market.
The last factor is level of interest rate. Sukuk securities compete with conventional banks and bonds in providing external finance. Investors see the opportunity cost of investing in Sukuk securities as equal to the current prevailing interest rate. The lower the interest rate, the lower the foregone opportunity cost, and hence Sukuk insurance should be stimulated.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nur Shafika. So, in my part, I will discuss about the issue of the sukuk. Okay, so there are many issues that arise in the diversity and modernity of the sukuk industry nowadays. The issue that will be discussed first is the sukuk musyarakah under the issue of purchase undertaking. So, the purchase undertaking PU involves issues such companies and investors who pledge to repurchase ownership of sukuk. Briefly, PO is an agreement agreed by both parties to make a transaction to repurchase the sukuk together in the future. The agreement made will result in the partner being entitled to take a legal action against the violating party not to repurchase the sukuk. Purchase undertaking can occur in three situations. The first situation is purchase at the end of the maturity period of the sukuk. Repurchase in this situation is a method for the issuer to terminate the sukuk contract with the second party. The operator will repurchase the sukuk from the investor, and the investor will recover the original investment value. The second situation is purchase throughout the sukuk period. Repurchase in this situation is a method by which the agreement is made when the sukuk contract begins. The issuer will purchase all assets for the duration of the contract by mutual agreement of both parties. The last situation is the purchase at the time event of default. Repurchase in this method for is to guarantee security to investors. PU in this situation occurs when the publisher commits an error that can be categorized as an event of default. The trustee on behalf of the investor will instruct the issuer to repurchase the sukuk from the investor to bear the loss on behalf of the investor. The result of external studies show that more investors are applying purchase undertaking in sukuk musyarakah. However, there are still shortcomings that occur when applying this purchase undertaking in sukuk. Purchase undertaking is applied by method that establish what, which is agreement for the future. What then is two different promises, and muadah, which is promise made by both parties. Okay, let's talk about the what. This method can be identified by using the purchase undertaking, the statement, and not the sell undertaking statement. It occurs when the agreement is only done by one party regardless of the issuer or investor. The second situation is what then, which is the concept of what then is two different agreements with consent by both parties. The implementation also differs subject to the respective condition. The last condition is mu'adah, which is the mu'adah method is when the two parties to contract make two different agreements whether the promise is made conditionally or not. The method has been widely used in banking product in Malaysia, either by purchase and sale undertaking. Agreement under the muadah method have the different whether the agreement is directly or indirectly binding. The party making the agreement is entitled to adhere into the agreement whether the binding or not. The binding agreement is entitled when one party make a specific condition, that is to sell the one party only or the desired party, but still need to get mutual agreement. While the agreement is not directly binding is when there are no specific condition in the agreement, but when there are parties who breach the promise can be used with court action. Okay, the second issue is about BBS sukuk default. The second issue focuses on the exchange of the asset to conduct payment transaction using Syariah principle, which is by vitamin ajil. Sukuk by vitamin ajil means a financing certificate based on the by vitamin ajil contract which show the ownership of the investor's right to the asset. BBS sukuk makes it different from conventional bond because it is recorded as a financial agreement and not a debt. Malaysia also belongs to the issue of BBS sukuk, which is a default sukuk. Fortunately, the issue has not become a big issue discussed in Malaysia, but Malaysia should not underestimate this problem. This breach can occur as a result of a party violating the original terms of the agreement that was agreed at the beginning of the contract or agreement. An example of situation is when one of the parties make a mistake such as skipping payment, the Sukuk holder will try to resolve the issue with the issuer out of court to safeguard the common interest. So this is a direction created by the Academy of Islamic Fiqh and AOIFI standards against those who deliberately defer contract debt that has been agreed. Among them are first, the party who deliberately delay the payment should be declared in the mass media. The second is the bank reserve to right to all loss and expenses incurred due to the arrears. The third, the bank reserve to right to claim damage from the debtor during the management period out of the judgment process. Okay, the last is for debtors who are unable to repay the debt. The bank and the debtor can enter into a new cooperation by making a partnership for immovable asset akar by leaving the debt. Through this transaction, the debtor can pay the debt with the rental proceeds of the asset, which will be given to the bank. Factor that make cost default for one party are due to economic slowdown and volatile economic market condition. For example, the rate of crude oil price volatility is among the most significant global causes influencing investors. Economic stability has also affected the confidence of borrowers and bank investors to be more active. Okay, the second factor of default is the danger when there is a third party. This is because there is no guarantee of third parties. A capital guarantee and agreement with conditional guarantee if there is a breach of the contract need to be met by the Sukuk issuer. The third factor is default when there is no indemnity agreement made by both of investor and the issuer. The Sukuk investor can impose damage takwid on the Sukuk issuer if he enters into his agreement for the offence of failing to pay within the agreement period. So, in conclusion, the issue of default under discussion is not due to Sharia factor, but due to the management of a company and lack of knowledge to ensure the security of employment contract. In the BBI issue, the most worrying risk is when the outstanding asset or loans cannot be recovered. This happens when the Sukuk issuer is unable to pay the agreed capital and the profit. Stability in the management of a company is also a factor in the occurrence of repayment default. Islamic scholars has actually been looking for alternative to include the issue of Sukuk default. Among the method is to feature improve the quality of Sukuk and Islamic finance product in Malaysia. The Securities Commission SC has also taken various initiatives to strengthen the Sukuk market to address this issue. Among the initiatives is to increase cooperation with other industries to improve the quality of Sukuk product.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nurul Batrisha binti Muhammad Zadi. Now we are going to go to the third issue, which is Green Sukuk. Malaysia issue, it first is Islamic bond to finance countries' sustainable climate resilient growth, and Sukuk is an Islamic bond that can generate returns for investors while not violating Islamic Sharia law, which forbid interest payment. There are lots of people did not know what is a Green Sukuk. So, Green Sukuk are Sharia compliant investment in renewable energy and other natural resources, and Sukuk funds will be used to protect the environment and natural resources, save energy, promote renewable technologies, and lower greenhouse gas emissions. Instead of that, Green Sukuk is a new Islamic finance instrument that necessitates the trust of investors. This may persuade the investor of the potential for Green Sukuk to benefit both the environment and also the country economy difficult. And Malaysia is a world leader in a green investment, having introduced to the Islamic Green Sukuk SRI, a Sharia compliant source of funding that has been recognized by the World Bank Group. Next, we are going to go to the meaning of sustainable and responsible investment, which is well known as the SRI. So, the SRI is the concept of making investment decisions that consider not only financial returns but also environmental and social development. As a result, the SRI approach considers three criteria, which is ESG. ESG criteria are acronyms for environmental, social and governance factor. Portfolio selection and investment management would thus incorporate ESG criteria. On October 25, 2013, the former sixth Prime Minister Malaysia officially announced the term SRI for the first time during his speech on the National Budget 2014, and the Securities Commission Malaysia, which is known as SC, announced revision to its Sukuk guidelines on August 28, 2014, including new requirements for the insurance of SRI Sukuk. Next, we are going to see the project implemented under the SRI project, also the contract used for green Sukuk insurance. This is a few projects that implemented under SRI. The first one is the Sarawak Green Hydro Sukuk, Bakum Hydroelectric Plant. The second one is SRI Green Sukuk, Tadau, Solar Photovoltaic Construction. And the last one is BEWG, M. Sedia Berhad, Solar Photovoltaic also. What is the contract that used for green Sukuk insurance? The first one we can see through the SRI Green Sukuk Tadau Solar Photovoltaic Construction. Tadau had issued a large-scale green Sukuk which is worth 2,050 million to fund the development of a solar project. Tadau Energy's green Sukuk is structured on the principle of istisna, which is manufacturing sale and ijarah leasing, and has a nature of 2 to 16 years. And also, Tadau Energies use the hybrid Sukuk. Ijarah Mausufa fil Alzima is another name for this hybrid Sukuk, and this Sukuk is a forward lease contract for a construction project. The second one is the Sarawak Green Hydro Sukuk, Bakum Hydroelectric Plant. This issue using a Sukuk Murabahah contract, and Sarawak Hydro bought the project at a high price. However, the payment made on credit or pay in installments. And during the installment period, Sarawak Hydro as the seller will settle the cost and profit margin, but at the same time, Sarawak Hydro as the issuer will issue a Sukuk Murabahah certificate on a regular basis. Next is BEWG M. Sedia Berhad Solar Photovoltaic. This project made use of the Wakalah Sukuk contract, and BEWG M provides Sukuk holders with a Wakil investment. Wakil operational rules is to convert Wakalah Sukuk investment into relevant portfolio investment or Wakalah investment. To this project, we can see that green Sukuk can be structured through various contracts. It depends on the type of project that the green Sukuk will finance. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and hi, I'm student Anis binti Muhammad Ya. We'll continue the presentation which is about the discussion covering Sukuk risk management and also the advantage of Sukuk. Okay, structural risk management of Sukuk is a relatively new concept. Many concepts don't quite understand it, and that is the best strategy for the long term. But it's now clear to everyone who manage Sukuk that we must pay attention to the risk expect to develop a safe and strong Sukuk market. Okay, first of all, one must understand that no one is risk-free in this world. Risk exists in everything to some degree, and it is undeniable. We cannot eliminate all these risks, but efforts must to be made to manage and minimize them as much as possible. The use of immediate option as a tool for Sukuk risk mitigation. This is seen by Sharia while prohibiting the trade of debts, allowing it is a exchange for the goods, assets, and service. Therefore, the Sukuk holder istina his zero coupon, for example, to an apartment after a content period instead of waiting for the maturity of the Sukuk. In fact, it is possible to use floating rate Sukuk swap with a zero coupon fixed rate embedded Sukuk as a Sharia compliant instrument. Malaysia has emerged as a vibrant Sukuk hub, offering a cooperative solution for Sukuk activities throughout its conducive issue environment, policies that facilitate investment, Islamic financial infrastructure. All these factors have attracted global investors and issue to Malaysia, which is a destination country for Sukuk insurance and investment of choice. These global issuers include international financial institutions such as the International Financial Corporation and the International Bank for Regulation and Development. Okay, the MIR MIFC is role to promote Malaysia as a center offering Islamic financing products and service is the global market by encouraging that growth of financing market investment Islamic as well as like international Islamic financing center. One of MIFC's main focus areas is promotional activities for the organization, distribution and trading of sukuk of domestic and foreign currencies. Lastly, the conclusion we can make is that the increase in the number of sukuk issuers each year have proven that sukuk has been acceptable in Malaysia in particular and foreign countries in general. Meanwhile, the diversity of sukuk product has helped the development of sukuk market and the diversity is related to the structure of the sukuk itself. Sukuk has undergone significant change in terms of sukuk structuring, where contracts using more stable, more Sharia compliant, and more globally stable. Sukuk based on equity financing and debt financing also have certain advantage and disadvantage, and the supply and demand of sukuk is influenced by certain factors. Malaysia need to maintain this development and further strengthen the existing Islamic financing product. So it continues to receive demand from investors or buyers and aside the country thus being able to further improve the socio-economy of the Muslim community in Malaysia in particular and improve the Malaysian economy in general. That's all from our group. I hope you guys can understand why we grew is presentation. That's all from all. Thank you.